Hey fam, you're welcome. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make a stylish bubu top. Thank you so much for your love in my last video. And today we're going to be learning how to make this top. It's very easy, but I must also warn you it's time consuming. So to get started, you are going to be needing two basic measurements, okay? You are going to be needing two basic length measurements rather. So you need to determine where you want your bubu top to end, and you also need to determine where you want your fringe in form of the Ankara print to stop. So you need those two measurements, and that is what you need. Then your bust round, and of course just your bust round mainly because this is a boo top, and your back measurements. Okay, so here's my African prints. I'm making use of this print, and I folded my fabric into two. So I'm going to be starting from the top region. The first thing I'm going to do now is to determine the length of my boo gown. So if you want yours to be a crop boo, you could stop around 16 inches depending on your half length. But for I'm going to be making my own bubble length to be 20.5 inches. Now what I actually want is 20 inches, but then adding that zero point 0.5 inches because I'm going to be turning this particular top with a lining just because of the fringe details below. Okay, so after doing that, I'm just going to go ahead to insert my shoulder measurements divided by 2. Mine is 7 inches, and to that you have to determine the length of the sleeve you want. You know, it's a cut together sleeve. So if you want your sleeve to be like 5 inches or 6 inches or 7 inches, just go ahead to indicate that. And you also have to bear in mind that you might be adding about, let's say, zero point 0.5 since we're turning with lining, for turning, or 1 inch, let's just say 1 inch for turning, your sleeve round. So after doing that, I went down by 1 inch to create my shoulder slope, and I connected it to that point where I have my neckline width. For this particular tutorial, I made use of a neck width of 3 inches. Okay, now 3 inches, you could do more than that, but I think 3 inches is just fine because I really don't want it to be too wide. So after that, I went on to indicate my bust point, that's my shoulder to nipple, just as a guide for my bust measurement. Okay, you need this particular measurement just to create a guide for your bust measurement where you're going to indicate your bust, and that's my waist measurement, my waist length rather, the next line, then of course my top length. So I divided my waist round by 4. That gave me 9, and I added about 4 inches extra to that. So depending on the amount of fabric you have, if you want your bubble dress to be really free, you could go ahead to add like 5 inches, 6 inches. But I just felt I really don't want mine to be really wide. I just want something very simple. So this is totally up to you. So after doing that, I connected this with a straight line, and towards the sleeve opening part, I used a curved, as you can see. So I just added my sewing allowance to that, and after checking all through, I went to the neckline region to indicate my neck depth for the back. For the back, I made use of 2 inches for the neck depth, and I just make a round neck at the back. And for the front, I decided to work with a v-neck line. So I went down by 6 inches. Okay. I went down by 6 inches. You could go lower than that, but for me, I just feel this is perfect. I don't want to go beyond this. All right, after doing that, I just went ahead to add zero point 0.5 inches towards the shoulder region in order for me to be able to sew this onto my lining. And after doing that, I just went ahead to cut. After checking through my measurement, I went ahead to cut. Now, don't forget my back and my front is together. I folded in 4 places. So I separated the back piece, and for the front piece, I had to fold into two so that I could cut out my v-neck line. So basically, the front and the back piece are same. The front and the back piece are same, as you can see. So I'll just go ahead to cut out the v-neck line, and that's just all majorly for the drafting the cutting part of the bubu top itself. Okay, so after opening my top, this is what I have. Well, I'm going to go ahead to mark the seam allowance on both sides. So I just went ahead to mark the seam allowance on both sides because I want to calculate the amount of strips I'm going to be needing for me to create that fringe detail. So what I have here after marking is around 25 inches, so around 25 inches. Now I will advise you make many strip as you can, but what I just did here was that since I have 25 inches, I multiplied that 25 inches, okay, by 2. That's for the front and the back, to have 50. So I discover, okay, I'm going to be needing nothing less than 50. So that means I'm just going to be giving it little spaces in between. But if you want yours to be fuller, then you can do more than that, but just cut as many strips as you want. So for these strips now, first of all, I indicated my strip measurement. I need about 15 inches, but what I have here folded, this is folded into 4, fam, folded into 4. What I have here is 16.5 inches for the length, and for the wideness of this particular strip, I'm going to be cutting 1.5. What I want at the end of the day is going to be around 0.75. But first of all, I went ahead, as you can see me do, to trim out this selvage. Then I went in with my chalk to start marking out. So I'm going to be marking 1.5 upward at that end. Remember, my fabric is folded into four already, just like the way I cut the front and the back. So this is folded into 4. So I just went ahead to mark until I get to the lower end, and I would mark at the other end too. So the length I have here, as it's laid down, I have 16.5, and what I really need is 15 inches. So I'm going to tell you what that extra 1.5 is for later in this video. So this is the other end. As you can see, it's important to mark the other end so that you can end up having a straight strip and not a bent or a curved, not even a curved now, a bent strip. So just take your time to mark. I know it might be taxing, but do well to take your time to mark. And after that, I'm just going to connect the 2 points together, and I'm going to cut each out. So if you have been watching and you've been getting value, do well to hit the subscribe button if you're a newcomer here. Also, don't forget to turn on notification bell so when I post new videos, you get to see them. And don't forget to drop me a comment. It encourages me to do more. Thank you. So after doing that, I'm just going to go ahead to cut out the strip in details, as you can see me do. After cutting everything out, at the end of the day, I ended up having around 50 plus strips. Okay, I ended up having about 50 plus strip, as you can see. So I just went ahead to cut the upper part so that I can have individual slip. So at the end of the day, I'm going to be folding it this way, as you can see. Then I'll fold it a bit, then I'm going to fold it to have something like this. So this is just it. All right, also I'll be showing you how to do that on the machine. So far, I went ahead to cut lining for the front and the back piece, and I'm going to be joining them. Okay, so now we're on the machine already. So look at the way I folded the edge, the top edge of that first. Please, you have to fold the top edge first. After folding the top edge, then you take either the left or the right at one time. You're going to be folding about 0.25 inch inward. Then you repeat the same method on the other side. Then you close it up together so that you can have a very neat strip. You don't have to bother about maybe the end frailing or what have you. So that's what I did here. So I just went ahead to sew from the top down to the bottom, and when I got to the bottom, the same method I applied at the upper part, the same thing I did at the upper part, folding the top edge, I went ahead on the lower part too. I took my time to fold it. Now this might be a little bit challenging, especially if your fabric is not really straight. You have to take your time to do this well. I discovered some of the strip I cut was not really straight, so I just took my time to cut out the unnecessary part and just um sew this strip one by one. So I will not lie to you, it's time consuming. This strip is time consuming. So if you are going to be making this for someone, please factor your time when you are putting a price to this particular style. Factor your time. It is time consuming, as easy as it may look. Okay, so after doing that, this is just the first strip. I went ahead off camera to repeat the same process on all my strip, and right now we're going to be going back to the table to continue the top tutorial. Okay, so I went ahead to turn my front part, yeah, the front block, the front top with lining, and after doing that I only turn it and I top stitch the upper part, that v-neck line. So I'm going to open this point like this, as you can see. Okay, so I marked out the allowance on both sides, and the next thing I'm going to do now is to start inserting the strip rather, one after the other. So you actually need your pin at this point. So this is totally up to you. Depending on how much strip you have, you can space it out as you like. So I just took my time in laying the strip close to each other, and I went ahead to pin them individually. And after I was done with that, I'm going to be showing you how I'm going to sew this on the machine. So this is what it looked like after pinning. Okay, I sewed this, then that's to the right side of the fabric. Then I went ahead to place the lining over it this way. I placed lining over it this way, and I'm going to be sewing straight using about 0.5 inches. So I went ahead to do same for the back block too. So this is what it looked like on the sewing machine. After sewing, this is what it's going to look like. I went ahead to remove the pin individually. You have to be careful at this point. And after doing that, I'm going to be top stitching. Now in this part, you have to be very careful. What I did was that I pull all the excess toward the lining part and I top stitch on that part. This is going to help your outfit look very, very neat, especially if you are making this in form of a ready to wear. Now if you don't want to use lining at all, you can as well use another piece of fabric just to give it a perfect finish. So after I was done with that, I just went ahead to lay this on the table. So this is what it looked like on the right side. This for the front, and this is what it looked like on the back. You can see that it's very neat, and we don't have any excess strip or anything showing out what we did inside. So I'm just going to go ahead to place the back block on this right side facing right side, and I'm going to be turning this on the shoulder using the lining towards the shoulder. So just look at what I'm doing in this video. I went ahead just to use the back lining on the shoulder tip to turn the front lining to give it a neat finishing. And after doing that, I'm going to be showing you how I'm going to close this on the side, and afterward the sleeve opening. So this is what it look like. I'm just going to take it like this, then I'm going to be opening it up on the wrong side so that I can sew it in. And after sewing that, I'm going to go ahead to fold this part inward. Fold this part inward, then I'm going to top stitch on it. After doing that, I'm going to show you what the final look is after sewing and taking in my seam allowance. So this is what the final look is. I hope you love this. I'm just going to show you how it look on my body, and I really love the effect. What do you think about this?